All right, let me put away my work idea as we begin getting this program on the road. So, the question we're going to be asking today is, can the Republicans lower crime? We now have a Republican Congress at hand. Obviously, they want to try to rectify what they believe are crimes that President Biden got away with. They want to perform an investigation of the Biden administration, indeed Hunter Biden and things associated with President Biden. But we were promised that because the liberals were so poor on addressing criminals, that if we elected Republicans, they would do a better job dealing with crime. So I'm going to ask that today as I put up my beloved MAGA hat to let folks know this is a MAGA-friendly program. Can the Republicans reduce crime? And if so, how? They ran on a platform that Democrats are soft on crime. We now have a Republican Congress. We have states that have Republican governors. Are the Republicans going to reduce crime? And I want to know, how can they do it? Plain and simple, let's say we have Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. Are we expecting the crime rates in Florida to fall? And if so, what is Ron DeSantis going to do to drop inner city crime? I asked this question before when Dr. Oz was running against Fetterman. And the question was, how could Dr. Oz reduce crime in Philadelphia and Pennsylvania? Obviously, Dr. Oz did not win the race. However, there are plenty of Republicans that did win the race. So how can Republicans reduce inner city crime? Because that is what they are alluding to by suggesting that Democrat-run cities, Democratic-run areas are overran with crime. Crime is rampant in areas that are being led by Democrats. So if you give Republicans control of Congress, which they have successfully obtained, are they going to bring down crime? And if so, how? Look it in the comments. Jan says Democrats did a poor job of making Trump administration responsible for their crimes. How could the Democrats make the Trump administration responsible for crimes? Are you suggesting that the Trump administration itself was committing crimes? Just want to kind of figure out where you're going with that. Yes, by enacting strict legislation that would hopefully curb the crime rate. 520 King Triple Z, the question I have to ask, do we have any evidence in this country that strict legislation reduces crime? I would submit to you, over the last 30, 40 years, we had the war on drugs. That had to represent some of the strictest legislation we have had in regards to committing crimes in American history. Same thing with 3 strike laws. This is some of the strictest legislation you could possibly pose in regards to addressing crime. So we have to ask, did it work? Did the war on drugs, with all of its strict legislation being tough on crime, is there anybody that looks back at the war on drugs and suggests that was a success in dealing with drugs? Is there anyone that looks back at the outcome of 3 strike laws and suggests it was successful in reducing crime? Because that is what we are posing today in 2022. Is that we need to address crime by strict legislation and being tougher on it. And that's what I'm asking. We have examples in this country. By the way, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. This is a MAGA-friendly program. I do not ban, block, or censor anyone. I make that solemn promise on every live stream. I give you plenty of time in the box. The fact that you disagree with the host never means a damn thing. But I want to know, how can the Republicans reduce crime? Because that is what they are promising to do. In the comments, B-Dog says, Red Kingdom. That did not happen. That song came across as a miserable failure. We were promised a red wave, a red tsunami of sorts. Did anyone go surfing that day? Did anyone find that they could actually even stand up on the surfboard? The waves did not seem to come in. I believe I could actually see turtles navigating their way through the calmness of the waters that we encountered on Tuesday. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you saw a red wave. I didn't see that. Now, 52 King says Florida was a red wave. Absolutely. Florida, Arkansas, Iowa. But if you want to go state by state, then you could suggest that maybe Colorado, maybe Arizona had blue waves, California. So it wasn't, the wave is never meant to be a state by state issue. The red wave was meant to be national. Dropping it down to states is spinning it. It's like literally spinning it to try to make the best that you can out of it. But at the end of the day, no one can claim that a red wave took place in this last midterms. And we can ask a simple question. Why did that not happen? President Biden, his economy, his poll numbers are horrible, inflation is high. How could all of that be orbiting around President Biden, and yet you have no red wave? What happened? What happened at the polls, folks? What is it about the Republican Party that they could not prevail with all of that going for them? What is it about that party that needs to be reevaluated in regards to losing under that environment? It's like playing your competitor when none of their star players are on the team, yet still losing. What went wrong? Looking in the comments again, his poll numbers are fake, says user. So are you saying his poll numbers, President Biden's poll numbers, are actually better than folks are suggesting? Fair enough. Because Republicans are hated, says Scott54. If Republicans are hated as you are suggesting, and by the way, tap the screen. There are plenty of patriots and liberals alike in here. Like I said, it's a MAGA-friendly program, but liberals are welcome. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000 likes. There's 600 plus in here. Plenty of time in the box for anybody who wants to come in and state their point without fear of ban, censorship, or being blocked here. You don't have to agree with the host. Doesn't mean a damn thing. But I want to ask, in regards to Scott saying that Republicans are hated, why? Why would a bunch of American voters, constituents, hate an entire party? Is that just all for naught? Has the Republicans just sat back being totally innocent and they're just being hated for no reason at all? Why do people hate Republicans, as Scott is suggesting? What's causing that? What the hell is causing people to hate the Republicans? I've seen plenty of animosity for Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Maxine Waters, Ilhan Omar in the squad. Why do people hate Republicans? Somebody answer that. I'm going back to Man Keith, friend of the program. Bionic Man, good afternoon.
You know, just a quick thing, Tim. The biggest benefit that I've seen to this past election is I'm really hoping that Mitch McConnell is not the head of the Republican Party, and I'm glad that Nancy Pelosi is gone.
I think they already picked Mitch McConnell to do it again, so you're not going to get that one, but Nancy Pelosi is gone.
Because I'm just sick of the same old on both sides. It's just, we need new blood. Like these people that are in their 70s and 80s, I'm sorry, man, but you need new blood in on both parties.
So I have to ask the obvious question then. Wasn't Trump elected to drain the swamp and get us the new blood? I mean, isn't that what we were shouting at the rallies? Drain the swamp, term limits, all of the stuff you're asking. Wasn't that the main goal of electing President Trump?
Yes. And it never happened.
So that's a promise is made, but not kept.
Sure.
Yeah, fair enough.
I want all of these people gone. These career politicians that make tens of millions of dollars. You know, it's just like, to me, that's corrupt in itself. Like, you're going to see like this whole thing with that Bitcoin thing that's coming out now with politicians making money off of that. Another corruption thing that's going to go on. It's like politicians and nothing's going to happen out of it. I mean, there were politicians that made money off of like Pfizer and Merck and all of these companies during the pandemic, that they knew stuff ahead of all of us and they invested in it. They knew which companies were going to get like all the shots. It's like
So
nothing ever happens to them.
here's the problem on that. And you lean right. You supported Trump, right?
No, I didn't vote for either one of them the last go. Remember, I
Oh.
worked the polls and I was the guy feeding the machine. So I felt like it was a conflict of interest. I voted for Trump in the first election, but because I was working the polls, I felt on a personal level it was too much of a conflict of interest because of what my job was at the polls to do that.
So
It was a personal thing with me.
So because you were a pollster, or you worked at the polls, you felt like you shouldn't vote at all?
No, I voted for like all uh the local runoffs. I voted for like all of the propositions. I voted for that stuff. I didn't vote for the president. I mean, it didn't matter. I live in California. It didn't
Yeah.
really matter who I voted for. You know what I mean?
What about
So,
Senate? What about Senate and Congress?
um usually I'll go like 50-50 on that. I usually will
No,
go
but
and
no,
read what the
I'm asking, did you vote in this for Senate and Congress during that time?
Yeah, but I couldn't tell you who it was.
That's
I
fine.
I
That's
can't
fine.
even
But you
remember.
did vote. You didn't vote for the president, but you did vote for Senate and Congress at that time.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I never
Because
heard
I'm an
someone say that.
independent.
Okay. Fair enough.
And
Wow.
who
I've
I
never
voted
heard
for in
someone.
the primary was actually Tulsi Gabbard,
Oh.
which a
What
lot
is
of people don't
Tulsi?
like her.
What is she? Is she a Republican? Is she a Democrat? What is Tulsi Gabbard?
Well, I mean, when she ran back then, she was running under the Democrat, but she has like way leaned right now.
Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard, for my MAGA folks out there who believe that folks like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger is a rhino, Tulsi Gabbard would certainly qualify as a dino or a dino or whatever. I mean, obviously she wasn't very Republican. It didn't take a lot to get her to switch over and go to the right. So, and she went over to the right side of the aisle during the era of Trump. I mean, he wasn't president, but he's still heavily influencing politics. So if you could move from left to right while Trump is still in the crosshairs for being reelected, you're not very liberal. I mean, that's like literally going from right to left while AOC is running for the race. You're not very, yeah, she was not very much a Democrat to begin with.
Well, and I think a lot of times we don't really know a lot of these politicians until you start seeing them so much that they start showing their true colors. I
Yeah.
mean, you remember like during the Republican runoff when there was like I can't even remember how many there were, like 14 of them or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they
17,
started like
17.
yeah, it's like, and you like Herbert Kane or Herman Cain, or like there was like ones that were like it was like bowling pins. Like there was one guy in the front runner, and then the next
Yeah.
person was the front runner, and the next person was the front runner.
Right.
And it just seems like the more you got to know somebody, then that pin got knocked down, and then it was like the
Well,
next
the
person
thing
and the
about
next
it
person.
is, yeah, also too, the thing about it is you go from Iowa to or New Hampshire to Iowa, and if you win the Iowa caucus, the way they think in Iowa is totally different than the way they think in New Hampshire. So when you go to these states and you're dealing with these caucus, I mean, New Hampshire and Iowa has a completely different mindset. So that's why you had, like you said, Rick Santorum was at the front one time. Then Herman Cain comes up. And, at the end of the day, I think Trump was accusing Ted Cruz of stealing votes during the Iowa caucus. You never know, but that's mainly because as you go from different parts of the country, the mindset can change substantially. But I wanted to ask you before I move it on, do you believe, now that we have a Republican Congress, do you believe the Republicans can and will reduce crime? Because that's what they ran on.
No, they're not going to be. That's done to me always at a local level. You can't do that at a federal level. They all say that they're going to do that. That never changes. I don't care whether it's Democrats or Republicans in office. Nothing that they do is going to change. It's like when they blame, like, I mean, when you have like Giuliani, like he had a direct effect on
Right.
stop and frisk in a negative way towards people, because that was at a local level.
Right.
I mean, creating like racist, policies like that.
Yeah, very much.
It's like,
very.
You know what I mean? But at a national level, that's hard to make a policy on a national level that's going to actually blanket the entire nation. It's hard to do that.
I tend to agree. All right, Bionic, man, I got to move it on, as you know. Appreciate you coming through once again. Good talk.
Hey,
all right.
Hey, if I don't talk to you, have a great Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. You too. Good talk. All right. In the comments, ignorant says West Side Jackie. What is ignorant? You just said the word ignorant. Perhaps you're talking about yours truly. Feel free to come in the box. Come in the box. Let your boy know why you think he's ignorant without fear of being banned, blocked, or censored. The fact that you may disagree with me never means anything. I'll give you plenty of time in the box. Come on in the box. Let your boy know why he is ignorant in front of approximately 160 something folks. Tap your screen, get your boy up to 10,000 likes. Bring me more MAGA to the crowd. Going back to the box, we have Concerned Citizens of Southern Cal. Welcome back to Concerned Citizen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Handsome Liberal.
That is I. So what do you think? You think the conservatives promising or eluding that they could reduce crime is a farce, or do you think they could actually do that?
I think it's just a pickup line to pick up votes. I mean, I agree with the last caller wholeheartedly when they said it's near impossible to implement something like that on a national level. Again, he spoke to about Giuliani and the 90s or whatever, or the early 2000s when he implemented stop and frisk.
Yeah.
That seemed to work in New York, but essentially that was a pretty much draconic and a racist policy. I mean, like you had a lot of you had a lot of arrests and everything like that, but that really stopped crime. But that's just passing the buck to someone else. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, let me ask it to you this way. Let me ask it to you this way. Sean Moya in the comments is saying, what about by fixing the economy? In other words, he stated that when the economy is good, crime is low. So if Trump was in office or a Republican was in office and they strengthened the economy, reduced inflation, that would make crime go down. Do you see any correlation there?
Well, yeah, I can see that. I can see that if you got people jobs, and then then people have things going on in their life where they don't better things.
Yeah, but I have to ask the obvious follow-up. Under the Trump administration, it was not uncommon for him to brag that the economy was some of the best numbers in American history, yet he was also constantly Democratic cities. So if what is being said is true, then if you strengthen the economy, crime should go down. No one looks at the Trump years and suggests that America had a very low crime rate.
Well, I mean, I would agree with that. Agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, like, and I don't think that America had low crime. I mean, a high crime rate or a low crime rate due to Trump's policies. I mean, like crime has been going down for the last 20, 25 years, I mean, steadily. I mean, and I don't think it's any one thing to have to do with any particular party or something like that. It's just the way that the national trend has been going. Like crime has been steadily going
so you're
down.
You're not going to reduce crime by electing Republicans. That's the simple short of it is you're not going to reduce crime by electing national figures, Congress, Senate, and literally the president. You're not going to reduce crime by electing those folks from the conservative party.
No, absolutely not. And I mean, I think you're going to be the way to reduce crime is through your local DA, your local sheriff, your local I mean, and in a smaller sense, your state governors and all that stuff like that, and what they what they decide to put state resources to when it comes to justice and crime and all.
So why do you think so many Republicans believe that Republicans would reduce crime? If you put Republican, I got folks in the comments right now that believe if the country was ran by Republicans, crime would fall. Why do you think they believe that if what you're saying is true? Did I lose you there, sir? Okay, I must have lost my caller, but we can move it on. I don't know what the hell just happened there, but let me see here. Okay. All right. I'm asking though, and for some reason my last caller dropped. I think California is too large and needs to be divided, says Bionic Man. How do you feel about Alaska, Texas, Florida? Those are large states as well. What is your designation? Where is your bar, your benchmark for when you decide a nation is too large? I mean, California is a large state, but there are other states that are very large as well. Harris County Democrats, for example, letting criminals out for free. Well, let me ask you this, and I'll go right back to the box, but because I hear this often in regards to Democrats letting criminals out for free. What is your definition of a criminal? If right now the police were to come to my vehicle while I'm on camera and charge me with a violent crime and arrest me and take me away, am I a criminal? Because I haven't been convicted of anything. So when I go to court, based on your comment, if I get let out, they just let a criminal out for free. Criminal of what? I haven't been convicted of anything. Some would argue that Trump is a criminal. He's been charged with a bunch of shit. He hasn't been convicted of anything. So are we dealing with an actual criminal, or are we dealing with a witch hunt? Kyle Rittenhouse. How many folks on the left think Kyle Rittenhouse is a criminal? It's not. He wasn't convicted of anything. If they had to let him out for free, he's not a criminal. So that's the problem I believe we have, is that we're treating folks as if they are guilty until proven innocent. Just because you've been charged with something does not mean you're guilty. So you have to look at that. You can't just automatically assume everyone the police charges with a crime, because I'll use Kyle Rittenhouse again, is guilty. So when you say letting people out without, letting people out for free, maybe it's because they haven't been convicted of anything yet. Looking in the comments, Loving Life in a box. Loving 7-1. How can
Hello, it's the liberal. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I'm trying to figure out, how can Republican politicians reduce inner city crime?
Stop their violent rhetoric and stop attacking Democrats and be a positive role model to their people.
Okay, that's different. That's different. So you believe the crime is being committed by angry Republicans?
Yes, because I mean, if you actually think about it, I mean, when Trump first came out, after the first couple of months, like white supremacy was on the rise already. I noticed that even in my old neighborhood where I lived at, there was a white supremacy group that came out and they started attacking Mexicans.
So you agree with the FBI suggesting that under the Trump era, hate crimes and just hate rhetoric in general has risen?
Yeah, I mean, that's not even going towards the Chinese and Vietnamese and Korean community, because also there was a time, I don't know if you remember this, where when Donald Trump started saying China flu, this and that, and then everybody started attacking the Korean, Chinese, and Asian communities, and so
Go ahead.
We did jinx.
It's a delay.
Yeah. Go ahead. You were saying something.
No, I was going to ask if you seen Trump's speech the other day when he announced he's running for president. It was far more moderate, less inflammatory, no name calling. He didn't bring up the 2020 election. What about the idea of Trump running again in 2024 and running from a smoother, calmer platform and maybe that type of stuff dying down? Do you think Trump could run again and not have that happen? Maybe, calmer heads prevailing. Do you think Trump is better for the country moving forward in 2024?
No, no. I think he wore out his welcome. Honestly,
Mm,
he
mm.
wore out his welcome. I mean, his party is not for just it's just for, I hate to say it, but for white people.
Wow.
And it,
Yeah.
like there's this content creator, Luis Toro or Torio or something like that, where he's talking about where the people that are actually supporting Trump that are not, Caucasian, uh
Okay.
actually they have internalized racism, and they hate the and you know what, that is possible too, because I mean,
What do you mean when you say elaborate? What do you mean when you say internalized
they
racism?
hate themselves, like they hate
Damn.
their own kind.
Yikes.
They hate their own kind, because there are people in America that are like of Latin descent or Chinese descent or any other descent, that they don't like where they came from. So they sit there and attack just because they came to America and they've been here for some time. Well, they say, well, screw them, just they can stay over there.
You know, it's
Y-
interesting you would say that because I have noticed, because now I'm on these platforms and I particularly, being a liberal, I like to talk to the other side. That's my favorite platform, is to speak to folks on the other side. And I have noticed when I'm in forums where you have African Americans who identify as conservatives, they are
Right.
very anti-African American oftentimes.
Yes.
I've noticed that. Like, all of your, like, Candace Owens is a perfect example. She doesn't say a lot positive about black people at all. It's fairly negative. So I guess there might be
It's not
something to it.
racist. It's not okay. This one person on the commentary said that's racist. No, well, it is actually racist because of the simple fact that, I've noticed that even people of my own kind of because I'm a mix. I'm a mix. I'm
Okay.
Puerto Rican, Mexican, Italian, German, white, Spanish, and then some. Right.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Okay.
I talk to people of these communities, and they sit there and they say Trump this and Trump that and Trump 2024, and they should, and they come out saying, well, Mexicans should stay across the border, and I'm like, how are you
Hmm.
going to say that if you're Mexican? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. But
You
then
know,
when
it's another interesting point along those lines, and I might have to move it on. I'm at the part ways in a minute, but another interesting point along those lines is how many folks on the right voted against codifying, say, interracial marriage while being in an interracial marriage. I just could not understand that. But I got to
right,
move
like,
it on. Go. I give you the last word.
okay, because I mean, you make an interesting point there. Like the Supreme Justice Clarence Thomas, his wife voted on that bill, and they're what did you call it? I forgot.
To codify.
They're interracial relations themselves,
Yeah, exactly.
and
I don't understand that. Why would you have an issue codifying interracial marriage if you're in an interracial marriage? You should be all over that shit. But I got to move it on, loving life.
all right, thank you, Mr. Liberal. Have a great day.
You too. It's a pleasure. All right,
Take
looking
care.
at,
Bye.
yeah, they don't move some. Okay, Tipsy Turtle bayed against it too. Okay, look at, he wants a divorce. You think Clarence Thomas wanted a divorce at his old age rather? I don't know about that. It's about good people and badly bad people in America. USA, be nice to everyone. Has America ever fit that description? Be nice to everyone. Marriage is a joke. So the system can I don't get your grammar there. I'm gonna go right back to the box. I just wanted to read a few comments. The idea that Clarence Thomas wants a divorce is crazy. Latinos for Trump, says looks like Elijah. What is the percentage of Latinos, Hispanics, that supported President Trump. I know a lot of Cubanos and folks from, I believe, Venezuela, folks who escaped communist or better yet socialist governments, supported President Trump. But overall, I kind of wonder, what was the Hispanic support for President Trump? Was it anywhere near 50%? Did he get more? Did he come close to getting more than Hillary or Biden? I don't believe so, though. I don't believe so. Looking in the comments, or better at the box, that says lift. By the way, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 15,000. I'm asking a bit much, but there's a hell of a lot of patriots in here for some reason that are running from the box. I don't censor, ban, or block anyone, even if your far right is Q. I'll give you plenty of time to state your point, so understand that. I talk to Q all the time. I get Q on the program all the time, and I get far, far left on the program. What's going on? This our first time talking?
Yeah, it sure is. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Good to have you on. So what do you think? You think the Republicans on a national level could bring down the crime rate in this country?
I'm gonna channel my. You seen The Color Purple, right?
I have,
But
but it's been a long time ago.
you'll remember this quote from um, Lady Oprah Winfrey. So I'm gonna channel my Oprah Winfrey here when I say hell no, no. There is no way. See, let me explain why. Conservatives love to talk about how we're tough on crime. We're tough on crime. Well, your policies say bullshit because if you're so tough on crime, why is it that under conservative leadership, conservatives roll back programs, social programs in the poorer neighborhoods and the inner cities that help inner cities, not or inner city children and people in general stay away from the life of crime and help them get into bigger opportunities or just opportunities in general. They defund those programs and increase police spending, like with weaponry and gear and stuff like that. And that only increases crime because you're taking away the opportunities.
Yeah.
What other people, what else do people have left? It's the same thing we do. It's the same thing with policing the world, for example, right? For example, you know what's going on, what happened in South America under Trump's tenure, right? During his 4 years, he did nothing, his policies did nothing but decrease the level of support that we gave, like Mexico, Nicaragua, Colombia, and places like that to try to keep the freaking cartels and everybody else in line. Well, you take all that money away, the people are going to flee. Where are they going to come? The only place that they feel that they could give themselves and their families a better shot at a better life, they come here. So, and then they want to make the case, oh, we got a problem at the border. No, 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 no. Let's just build a wall. Okay, yep, the wall's falling apart. Mexico didn't pay for it. You took from the military. You pissed them off. How'd that
Wait a
work
minute.
out for
Wait a
you?
minute. Obviously, the wall is falling apart because Biden is president. Trump would have. You really believe the wall? You really believe the wall would have fell apart under a Trump second term?
I don't think the wall would have been built under Trump's second term. To tell you the
Why
truth.
not?
Why? He
That
has,
was his
first of
signature
all,
promise.
yeah, and Mexico didn't pay for it. See, a liar, first of
Oh
all.
well,
And then he,
yeah, well, yeah. We knew that Mexico was not going to write a check. Well, we knew that, but the
well, wait,
wall would have been built.
nope. Here's what I'm saying, brother. The reason why I'm saying the reason why I'm kind of I'm saying that we all knew, you and me knew that, you and me knew Mexico was never going to
Yeah.
pay for it. Come on now, because you and I live in the real
Yeah,
world.
but wait a
Let me
minute.
ask you
Wait a
something.
minute. It
Do his
wasn't. Let me
supporters?
let me let me interrupt you to say this. To me,
Sure.
saying Mexico is going to pay for the wall is very similar to liberals saying defund the police. They are ill thought out statements that everybody knows what they're trying to say. Nobody on the liberal side of the aisle, they're not talking about getting rid of police. They're talking about reallocating funds. Well, the same thing when Trump said Mexico is going to pay for the wall. He meant he was going to correct the trade imbalance, impose tariffs on their goods coming back here, and use the excess funding that we saved to build a wall. But the way he phrased it makes it sound like somebody in Mexico is going to write out a check and hand it over. He stated it just as poorly as the liberals stated defund the police, which allowed both sides to politicize the phrase and the idiocy of it. But I think if
So
Trump was in office,
so
I think
so
if
we're
Trump
supposed to
was in
take
office, a wall would have been built.
so we're supposed to take Trump's word that that's what he meant, even though him and his illiterate staff couldn't pull that out of their ass and say those things.
So you actually believe when Trump said Mexico was going to pay for the wall, he actually meant it literally. They were going to write him a check and hand it to him.
Do you know why? Look, I don't believe that personally. What I'm telling you is Trump doesn't have any idea what he's saying. Trump just says stuff. And Trump is a gaslighter. Trump has no actual plan for anything. His whole thing is I'm going to say it and then it's just going to get done because I decree it. It's simple. That's why. I understand Trump because he's an opportunist. That's all he is. That's all he'll ever be. Is an opportunist. That's all he did was make opportunities for himself and his family while he was in the White House. Period.
Well, you're not the only one to say that. You're not, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I think in regards to all of the issues with the Trump campaign, I do believe if he was president, one way or another, he would have built the wall. I'm not here to say the wall would have been super effective, if anything in that nature, because I strongly believe the reason we have such a poor immigration issue in this country is because most of America want these people to come here, whether it is to do jobs that no American wants, to undercut labor for the big businesses, or whether it's to turn into liberal votes. Both sides of the aisle want these folks in here. So building a wall, I don't believe at the end of the day is going to stop it. However, I do believe Trump would have got the wall built.
But where would he get the funding from? Are you going to take it from the military again and risk pissing them off like he did illegally before?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at. Well, I mean, seriously, look at what Biden was planning on doing with forgiving student loan relief. Nope, a large portion of the country disagree with it. He's going to find the money for it anyway.
Wait.
Yeah, Trump would have found the money for the wall.
So a large portion of the country disagree with it. I didn't. Okay, so if you're saying, where's the evidence to back that up? Because I didn't see anybody rushing the Capitol. I didn't see anybody mass protesting because of that. In fact, I saw people that was like, "Yeah, let's do that." And I'm glad you brought that up though, because
You
I
don't
see a
wait,
lot
wait,
of I see a lot of
you don't think
conservatives.
a large portion of the country disagree with Trump or Biden offering student debt loan relief? You don't think a large portion of the country disagree with that?
No, I don't. What I hear a lot of carnival barkers on Fox and Fools and other places starting to try to gaslight and gin up people for it when I know themselves and their kids who probably took out tons of loans to
Yeah.
go to school quietly are agreeing with it, but in public and on TikTok and Twitter and everywhere else, Breitbart, Joe Rogan, wherever else they can find a microphone and get out to the world, of course they're going to shout it down and say, "No, this is BS." Yet I'm sure they got their application in first.
Yeah. Well,
So,
at the end of the day, I can't tell what's on people's actual heart or not. If you're out there
of
saying you
course.
disagree with this, I'm gonna take you at your word. I'm not, whether you're saying you disagree when you secretly do agree, I can't speak on that. But if you're voting for politicians on the right side of the aisle that are going to strike it down, then I'm going to chalk you up in the disagree category.
That's fair enough, and I have to agree with
Yeah.
that. The thing about it is, I feel you on that. My thing about it is, how many of those people are you going to actually find? And they're not going to, as soon as you tell them you're going to put them in that disagree category, because they know that they've been outed, what is the first thing they're going to do? The first thing they're going to do is double down. The next
Yeah,
thing they're
see, I
going to do
can't.
is
Yeah,
dodge.
see, I can't speak on that. Like I said, if you're voting for right wingers that are going to shoot this down, I don't care if you agree or not. I'm putting you in the disagree category at that point because you are doing what it takes to get it shot down. So I'm going to
Exactly.
assume you disagree.
I feel you.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Hey, I
and
gotta go. Unfortunately, I love talking to you. Can we do this again?
absolutely. Anytime, come on back through, man. You know how we make it work out.
Okay, brother. Hey, do
All
me a
right.
favor. Be safe and take care of yourself, okay? It was great talking to you.
Absolute, absolute. All right. By the way, this is generally, I'm getting a lot of liberals on the program. Liberals are welcome, but I'm surprised. I haven't gotten any MAGA. I want to hear from a right winger how the Republicans, now that they've taken control of Congress, how the Republicans would reduce crime. We do have a significant amount of Republican governors. Obviously, uh, Greg Abbott in Texas, Ron DeSantis in Florida. How are they able to reduce crime? I want to know how can Republican senators, Marco Rubio, is he reducing crime in Miami? I want to know how, if the Republicans are in control, what they would do to reduce crime. Now, in the comments, this is one I meant to ask my last caller, but I'll ask you guys as a whole. I don't see what the first name says, but the last name says Buddy. Buddy says more guns. If everyone in America at the age of 18 was handed at least a pistol, do you believe crime in America would go up or go down? If everyone upon the age of turning 18 was handed a free pistol by the government, do you believe crime in this country would go up or go down? I just want to find out what you guys have to say about that. Crime is bad here in Florida, says J.P. Parker. And how long has DeSantis been governor? Some years now, and he certainly will be for another 4 years if he don't run for president. Going back to the box, I want to know that. Would crime go up or would it go down if everyone at the age of 18 was handed a pistol? Because I hear that all the time, that from the folks who support the Second Amendment, crime in Chicago would go down if they didn't have tough gun laws, if they weren't preventing people from defending themselves, or that guns are deterrents for committing crimes. Would it go up or would it go down? Looking at it would explode. Using guy 1962 said crime would explode if everyone was offered given a firearm at the age of 18. Of course it would up, says Lewis. It would go up, says DJ Ranell, something like that. It would go up, then down, says M. John. Go up, then down. How does that work? I live in one of the safest states with the most relaxed gun laws, says Gerard. I'm curious, what state do you live in? Because I know gun laws in the state of Alaska are pretty relaxed. But then again, there's nobody there. It's easy to have a very safe environment if nobody else is around to rob your ass. If you live out in the middle of Wyoming, ain't nobody coming down the street to do a drive-by. The nearest town is 70 miles away. You got to be pretty angry with a guy to drive 70 miles to smoke his ass, right? So I want to know, if you live in a state where they have really relaxed gun laws and the crime is low, where you living at? I mean, you don't see too many drug deals going on outside of Missoula, Montana somewhere. Tennessee, says Drew. The right to carry. Now, Drew, you mentioned Tennessee. I would have to ask for an explanation on Memphis. They seem to have no shortage of First 48 episodes back in the archives. Plenty of folks are getting murdered in Tennessee. No problem getting a gun in Tennessee, but yet there's no problem getting murdered there either. Same with Missouri. These are cities that often rank as murder capitals. We hear about Chicago. They don't tell you about St. Louis and Memphis, where they actually are having a higher percentage of murders. Just like Philadelphia. Philadelphia has more murders than Chicago, but they don't have those tough gun laws. Anybody can get a gun in Philadelphia or St. Louis or Memphis or New Orleans. So why are people still getting murdered at that rate? If guns alone help reduce crime, everybody can get a gun in St. Louis, Memphis, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, yet they still murdering the hell out of each other. Why is that? Chicago isn't even in the top 10. I agree with you, angry Mr. Bungle. Texas has the worst. We have police that are scared to help children. And nobody is complaining about the gun laws in Texas. Yet we have Jano here suggesting that Texas has police that are fearful to the point where they will not even help juveniles. So what's up? The guns are supposed to reduce crime. That's not what I'm hearing here. Did you hear that the Dems have agreed to raise voter age to 21 if Republicans raise the minimum teeth? This is obviously a joke coming from Exmo. Did you hear that the Democrats are willing to raise the voter age to 21 if Republicans raise the minimum amount of teeth to 6? Obviously suggesting that Republicans have no teeth in their mouth. Okay. Funny. The police aren't here to help you. Then what the hell is a blue flag for? What the hell is backing the blue supposed to mean? If you backing the blue, but they're not backing you? That doesn't sound right, but that's what I'm hearing. Again, teach your kids right from wrong has nothing to do with guns. User, I agree with that 100%. However, in a capitalist society where everybody's chasing the almighty dollar, where people are getting paid so low that they got to work 2 jobs. I'm talking to you folks who are against the minimum wage increase and shit like that. People working 2 jobs chasing the almighty dollar. It gets to a point where it's hard to raise your kids right. A lot of these children out here are raised by daycare, raised by the streets. It's not that their parents suck. It's their parents are getting paid shit and they got to work all damn day long. So they're not home very much. So even if you want parents to raise their children right, then might have to start with paying them a decent salary so they have time to do it. That's not happening now. People are expecting the teachers to raise the damn kids. Looking in the comments, it's a people problem, not a gun problem, says Trigger. You know, obviously a gun will never jump off the table and shoot someone. So the notion that guns do not kill people, people kill people, is obviously a fact. However, a bag of smack, a bag of cocaine won't jump off the table and get you high either. So we could easily say, well, shit, legalize drugs. Drugs don't kill people. People using drugs irresponsibly kills people. You can use that argument for anything. But we do realize that leaving a bag of schmack out there for anybody to get access to can lead to danger. Therefore, drugs are illegal. It's the same thing with leaving a high-powered weapon on the table. It's not going to kill anyone, but if somebody picks it up, just like the bag of schmack, it could cause a lot of mayhem. That's the way I look at it. I understand my folks on the right, my beloved MAGA audience, sees it different. Come in the box, let your boy know. Neither side will help lower violence. They both hate the common people, says Rax. In regards to reducing crime, dealing with gun violence, I want to give you guys this thing. You let me know in the comment section or come in the box and let me know where the hell I'm getting this wrong. Anytime there's a mass casualty event, whether at a school, at a parade, at a nightclub, at a synagogue, you name it, first thing you hear from the left is we need to ban high-capacity magazines, we need to ban firearms or something of that nature. The right obviously thinks the left are idiots and that banning guns will stop nothing. You see on the right, it's probably mental health. Now, here's the question I want to ask. When you go to liberal cities, even though on the right folks completely disagree and think the liberals are idiots, it's pretty clear what the liberals think is the problem when it comes to mass casualty events. They believe it's guns, they believe it's high-capacity magazines, military-style weapons. So in the liberal areas, appreciate that generosity, Jagar. In the liberal areas, they're trying to do things to limit access to guns. If you're on the right, you think it's stupid. I get that. But you can clearly see in liberal areas where they think the problem is and what they're trying to do to address it. Whether you think it's right or wrong, that's a different argument. That's fine. But when you go to right-wing areas, you go to Texas, you go to Florida, they clearly don't believe the problem is guns. But what do you see in right-wing areas that they're doing to address mass casualty events? Some would say they believe it's mental health. What do you see in right-wing areas being done to address mental health? Do they have extra mental health facilities? Because they're claiming it's mental health. They're telling you it's not guns. The liberals are ridiculous with guns. It's not guns. The liberals have it wrong. We think it's mental health. So when you go to Texas, as somebody said, Tennessee or Missouri or some of these Republican areas, what do you see coming from the Republican side that shows they're trying to address the problem? We know you think the liberals are stupid. You believe it's mental health. You don't believe it's guns. What are you doing for mental health? When you go to Republican areas, do you see them doing anything to address the problem based on what they're actually saying they believe it is? Okay, if you don't think it's guns, don't mess with guns. If you think it's mental health, more mental health facilities, more access to mental health. Do you see that in Republican areas? Because simply criticizing the policies of the left and suggesting the left is stupid while doing nothing is certainly not going to work. You can tell me how the gun laws in Chicago are ridiculous all day long. Maybe they are. But if you believe it's something else that's causing this, and you're not even addressing what you think is the problem, what kind of solution do you expect to happen? Do you not realize it's going to keep happening if you're not even addressing what you think is wrong? That's something we have to look at. Going back to the box, Kiki Hussein. That's an interesting name. Kiki Hussein, okay. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, House of Liberal. I appreciate you letting me on today. Great discussion as usual, man.
Absolutely pleasure.
for
So
sure.
can the Republicans reduce crime? They're promising that the liberals are soft on crime, elect us, will address crime. Can Republican politicians reduce inner city crime?
Well, the challenge with the Republicans, they've been running on that same platform for the last 20, 30 years, right? The way that they look at dealing with crime is the same way they've always been looking at dealing with crime, which is build more jails, increase police presence, and increase the arrests, right? Because they're not looking at stopping the cause of crime. They're looking with dealing with crime after the fact.
So you're
That
saying that their method of addressing crime is reactive as opposed to proactive.
Absolutely, because proactive solutions would be, more after school programs, more education, like you said, more mental health, things on the books versus building more jails and building more police. Police don't show up until after the fact. Jail doesn't happen until after the fact. And these are the ways that they seem to think that we reduce crime, but actually these are ways that we deal with crime, right?
A good point. But how do you feel about Republicans suggesting that if the police charge you with a violent crime, they should hold you with a very high bail as opposed to letting you out on bail or no bail where you can potentially reoffend? They're suggesting that liberals, the reason there's high crime in liberal areas is that they're letting violent people out.
Yeah. Well, the reality is it should be innocent until proven guilty, right? And to be proven guilty is to be judged in front of either a jury of your peers or a judge, while adjudicating the evidence. What we see and what I see from Republicans is they tend to believe that crime comes from a certain groups of people. They don't attribute crime to poverty or, the root causes of crime. They have no interest in resolving those things. They have interest in is policing certain areas. Certain areas of our community, and also being overly aggressive to certain communities. This is how they want to deal with crime. And when you do those things, this is what actually riles up their base. When you are overly aggressive to certain communities, this is how they think that that's how they think they're dealing with crime.
Yeah. Well, Rush Limbaugh, the late great Rush Limbaugh, did say the streets were safer during slavery. So I do understand what you're saying in regards to police in certain communities. But if you do put more police on the street and build more jails and things like that, you don't think that would have any effect on crime rates at all?
Absolutely not, because again, their whole thing is criminals are going to do crime. That's their whole thing. And again, police, like you mentioned before, is a reactive response to crime. We can look at what happened when they do, add more police or they add certain policies. Who do those policies impact? We look at the stop and frisk, right, where over 85% of those stops were for minorities, right?
Yeah.
Because they have a certain belief that crime only happens in certain areas, so we're only going to patrol certain areas, so we're going to over police certain areas, right? And so this is the challenge with the Republicans, policy against crime, and I think that the people are smartening up and rejecting that argument, which is why they lost in these last even midterms. I mean, Joe Biden outperformed, every president in the last, 70, 80 years, right? So that says something.
Joe Biden certainly had a very good midterms. Real quick, I got to ask you one more. Trigger in the comments said stop and frisk worked great. How do you respond to someone who believes stop and frisk, particularly under Rudolph Giuliani in the 90s in New York? How do you respond to somebody who thinks that was very effective?
Right. So I would respond to that. Worked for who? Right. So again, we have a situation where corporations actually have more power and rights than the actual people. You're saying that stop and frisk worked by what? Instilling fear in the hearts of people, by harassing and terrorizing minorities. If that's what you call working, again, that just goes into my argument into what their whole premise is. They believe that, hey, if we over police these certain areas, then we're doing our job. But all the while, you have an opioid crisis that's exploding. You still have homicide rates that are still that they still have to deal with, that they at least feel are exploding, right? They say, hey, don't defund the police, but we've been giving police money for centuries, but they're still complaining about crime. It's just a pickup line that they use to get votes, not and also just to over police our communities while running on a platform of fear,
So
right?
you
And
see,
to
so
instill
you
fear in
see
the
some of their
populace.
policies. Based on you, when you start talking about policing our communities and things like that, and I got to move it on, but I'll give you the last word. When you say they're over policing our communities and their policies are affecting us in particularly, would it be safe to say that you see Republican parties to some degree as being racist?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, let's. I don't pull any punches. I mean, if you follow me on here, you know I don't pull any punches when I speak about that. I believe it's more of a systemic situation where individual police may or may not be racist. With that being said, we have a system that seems to, again, believe that black, brown communities, this is where crime is, and if we can demonize these communities, then we can over police them. We have justification to lock them up without cause. We can throw them in jail, give them high bails. We can say that they're guilty before they're proven innocent. And again, this is their policy of fear. And again, I believe the American populace they're rejecting that. Liberal.
Fair enough. All right, come on back, Drew. Good talk. Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
All right, looking in the. And I haven't had any MAGA here today. It's a little different. Normally I get a lot of folks who lean right, and I always enjoy the dialogue back and forth. So I want to make it clear to you folks on the right, I don't ban, block, or censor anyone. Don't be fearful of the program. That is the purpose of the hat. Although I am a liberal, you see the name of the program. The hat is to let you know this is a MAGA-friendly program. In fact, my preferred guests are MAGA. I make that solemn promise on every broadcast that I do not ban, block, or censor anyone for what they have to say. And the fact that you may disagree with the host never means a damn thing. So I do implore MAGA, feel free to jump in the box. Tell me where I'm getting it wrong. Maybe you've seen something in the comments or the fact, that you heard me talking to someone and you think we're way off in left field. Box is open. We have to start policing the police like the Black Panther Party. The problem with that is there are people who like what the police is doing. Preferably the complaints that come from African Americans and minorities, I hate to say this, but are pleasing to the ears of some, which is why you have folks even to this day that'll see something like the loss of life for George Floyd and say, well, maybe he deserved it, or maybe he was high on something. So you're not going to get a total agreement in regards to policing the police, because there are people out there who believe the police are doing the Lord's work. Remember how the police in this country were started. It was to capture escaped slaves. So the way the police in this country were created, and I'm not saying the police are doing that now. Obviously, there's a hell of a lot of minorities that are police, that wear the badge. So in 2022, I'm not pretending like police are all on the hunt for black people or Hispanics. I'm just simply saying the police were created in a certain way. And there are people who believe that when you see these controversial cases on TV, person may have deserved what they got, which is why when you are charged with a violent crime, no matter what skin color you are, people automatically assume you're guilty. The whole reasoning behind accusing liberals of letting criminals out with no bail or low bail or things like that is because we assume that when you're charged, you're guilty, which is why bail should be very high. This is before trial. This is before conviction. You just been charged with a crime and people want your bail to be sky high. They want you to be held. They believe if you let out a person that's been charged with a crime, he's going to go out and reoffend. Everything about that says you're believing that the person that was charged is guilty before they've been convicted of anything. You want them treated like they're guilty. That's the definition of guilty until proven innocent. Looking at the comments, the whole world needs Trump back. Trigger, that is a hell of a comment. The entire world, the entire planet would be beneficial if Trump was president again. That's a hell of an accomplishment. It's a hell of an accolade to get President Trump. Wow. Okay, locking up, and right after Trigger's comment, locking up Trump will lower crime 100%. So Trigger thinks the entire world would benefit from Trump being president, and Delta followed right up by saying the entire crime rate of the entire planet would disappear if Trump was incarcerated. Talk about two comments from the opposite side of the spectrum. That was funny. All right, going back to Judge Political, friend of the program. Before Judge Political. Good afternoon.
I'm at work, so I can't stay on long. You were talking about crime. I think, believe it or not, I do think the Democrats are weak on crime.
How so?
Especially here in my county. A lot of the Democratic judges, they aren't as tough as I would want them to be on individuals who commit crime. They're very lenient.
What state are you in? I'm curious.
Ohio.
Okay. That's a red state?
Well, it's the county. It's the county. That's why I say it's the county, Hamilton County here in Cincinnati, Ohio. The judges are a little too lenient. And I am tough on violent crime, and I agree with you. I hate to say it, but, if we saw you hit somebody with a car and then you're charged, in my book, you're already guilty. You haven't been proven guilty.
That's fine. That's fine. But make no mistake about it. Most people who are charged with a violent crime, Cornstar, thank you for that hat and mustache. Most people who are charged with a violent crime, nobody witnessed it. I get your point if you see somebody doing something, but what about the people you do not see that are charged with a violent crime?
I would say the judge has to look at their record and look at the history. Because if you are known, or let's say it's domestic violence, and let's say you have a history of domestic violence, then yes, your bond needs to be higher, because we're going with the premise, I hate to say it, but you probably did it more likely than you didn't do it, because you have a record and a history of doing stuff like that. And then if the police report is showing that, they have injuries or whatever, you know what I'm saying, once they come and look at the crime scene, I think that we go off based off that and say, I mean, you haven't been proven guilty, but you are guilty. And I don't know if that's right or wrong.
Here's the problem I have with that. This is just like what the police often do, which is referred to as dirty up somebody. If you know a person already has a history of something, they are far easier to manipulate, exploit, and abuse, because you're going to have the benefit of the doubt over them. Let's say, for instance, a woman gets with a guy and she knows he has prior domestic violence cases on him. And she's pissed off that he cheated or he won't give her some money or something like that. And she tells him, if I call the police, I can get your ass locked up, because I know they're going to look at your record and they're going to believe me. Very similar to how police can abuse a prostitute, because nobody's going to believe a prostitute was raped. So if you go by people's records, you don't see the dark path you could lead down for people being exploited and abused.
I have to admit, you're on the money there, and that's where I see the other argument. I see the other side of the coin, because people make mistakes, people do things they shouldn't do, but when you have a history of something, unfortunately, it's a bad recipe. And I get that we shouldn't assume, but I'm telling you, if you've got 2 domestic violence charges, and a woman calls and says he hit me, I think a judge is most likely going to believe that. I believe that a jury of 12, she gets up there, she's crying. It's a sad situation, but this is why it's important to have a little bit of self-responsibility. You have to watch what you do, because it will follow you.
Yeah. Well, and that's another problem that I would add as well, is that after an individual has paid their debt to society, the history of that person shouldn't follow them so closely. I mean, obviously, you murder someone or you abuse a child, that's one thing. But too many crimes in this country stay on your record forever. I mean, there are places you can never vote again, places you can never own a firearm to protect yourself. You lose your entire rights in certain areas for the rest of your life. And I do believe that history, while it may indicate something if a person has a history of something, but if I got a history of writing bad checks when I was in my 20s and I'm 50 now, that history should not be still affecting me. After a certain period of time, everything about what that person did should go away. All of the restrictions, everything. If they've done their time, paid their fines and all of that, 20 years later, this stuff should not be still hindering that person.
You know, and I do agree with that. And I don't want to play devil advocate, but I'll play it because crime is something that I think if you were writing bad checks, or let's say you were doing credit card fraud, that's a federal felony, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you get a federal felony, unfortunately, these are the parameters that come with that. You're not going to be able to have a weapon, even though that has nothing to do with you being violent. You lose that, you forfeit that right.
But you know what that's based on? That's based on what you said when you first came in this conversation. I am tough on crime.
Yeah.
People who are tough on crime believes that the more draconian the punishment, the more it's going to deter people from committing crimes. And I will tell you, you know, as a person who has lived in other first world countries, Australia, New Zealand, and things like that, being tough on crime does not reduce crime. Our recidivism rates in this country compared to other first world countries that we would consider a softer on crime, our recidivism rates are horrendous because we profit from crime. We profit from incarceration. These other countries, their goal is to actually make the person better. We're actually focused on how much money can we make by filling up this jail or filling up these cells.
And this is where I get sometimes in my lives, I get flack from my Democrat friends. I really do, because certain crime it needs to be rehabilitation, but some crime is punishment. It's not about rehabilitation, in my opinion. If you went inside of a grocery store and robbed, held up a gun, it's a crime. It's a punishment. I know people say, well, let them sit there and try to get their GED and stuff like that, and that's fine. But at a certain point, it's jail. Jail is not meant to be. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, here's I understand what you're saying. Jail is not meant to be leisure. It's not meant to, it's meant to be a horrible place. It's meant to teach you your lesson. But here's the problem. I think it's about 80, I think they say about 86% of incarcerated individuals will one day be released. You have to focus on what am I releasing? I want to make it so that he learns his lesson. So I want him busting rocks, or like Sheriff Joe Arpaio, I want him in pink underwear. I want him living in hot tents out in the middle of the Arizona sun. This is what you're going to release, as a person that has learned to live in some of the harshest environments, busting rocks. You have created a piece of shit, and you're going to release him in society and hope that he turns into an engineer? It doesn't work that way. So the more you focus on the punishment, the more you create an animal. And in our society, we want incarceration to be as punishing as possible. And then we release these people in the hope for the best. And it doesn't work.
Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with revenge, right? When people do wrong.
It all does.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
Because it just reminds me, I'll say this and I'll go, but it reminds me of also the death penalty. Some people, majority of Democrats are against the death penalty. And that bothers me, because when it's violent crime and someone has, like the guy down in Parkland, Florida, he should have been put to sleep. I mean, someone like that shouldn't be getting 3 meals a day when our kids in high school and school can't even pay for their damn lunch.
Well, let me interrupt you by saying this, because I hear that all the time. Why should I have to pay for this long trial and things like? When it comes to executing somebody, the argument that it would save money to kill people, you shouldn't use money as a reason to. Either this person is a danger to society and needs to be removed or not. You should never use the argument, well, if I kill him, I'll save money. What happened to the folks on the right with the pro-life crowd?
It's not just about money, because you look at the evidence. It does take more to execute someone than it is to just house them, right?
Yeah.
But it's also about saying, these people, okay, the guy that went into Buffalo, into the grocery store. This is the people I'm talking about. We shouldn't have to go through all these hoops, which I get, that's just the legal process. But it's on camera. We've seen it. It's 100% proven. Someone like that shouldn't be able. I just really think.
Well, but you got to give them a mental illness argument. I mean, based on what you're saying.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Because you're playing now all of a sudden. Now You've orchestrated this whole attack, and now all of a sudden you have a mental illness. Give me a break. Give me a break.
Well, the point I'm trying to make, here's why liberals are against the death penalty. Because our mindset is we do not ever want to convict an innocent guy. The mindset from the folks on the right is I would rather kill a few people and make sure no criminals out there to harm us. So the left is more focused on making sure an innocent person is not harmed. The right is more focused on making sure that no one can reoffend. The right will look.
Change the policy instead of getting rid of it. Say that there needs to be DNA evidence or surveillance evidence. I'm talking about cases that are proven beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm not talking hearsay.
You're still going to kill innocent people. I'll give you a perfect example.
I don't think so.
If you went with DNA, video, and all of that, Kyle Rittenhouse would have got executed. You would have witnesses saying I saw him kill somebody. You got the bullets, you got the gun, you got everybody around us saying this is a bad guy. You need time to analyze cases. If you don't, you're going to kill innocent people because everybody in the crowd would have testified that Kyle Rittenhouse was a murderer. He would have been executed. Even the prosecutor
difference
was trying to kill that
guy. Is even with Kyle Rittenhouse's defense, even though I do think I think the first person he had a right to a certain extent. I think that the second two thought he was killing people, so they were doing something to try to help.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you kill someone in self-defense,
right,
and all I see is you killing that person, but it was a genuine self-defense kill, but I don't know why. I just saw you killing somebody. If I then try to jump in with a gun and apprehend you or something like that, and you shoot me, I deserve to be shot too. I'm ignorant. So. I don't know what was going on.
I don't think so, because they were under the premise that, and I get it, people should probably just get away from the situation. But if you thought someone was in a certain place unaliving people, to a certain extent, you have somewhat of the authority, and maybe you're going to tell me I don't. But you got to stop that, though. To stop that. To at least take away the gun. I'm not saying shoot him, but I'm saying to stop the killing. You see what I'm saying?
Fair enough. Fair enough, but I'll just if you're playing the role of a good Samaritan, but you're doing it from a position of ignorance, in my opinion, you can get it too. I'm just saying, if you don't know what you're trying to stop.
Let me ask you this before I go, and you can just give me commentary later. What did you thought about the midterms?
I think the Biden administration performed historically well.
Okay, because if you look at the individual swing states that we outperformed in, I'm talking about Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Wisconsin was a little back and forth. Nevada was too, but even in Arizona, you don't think that positions Democrats to be favored for 2024?
Absolutely. I think the minute Trump got back into the election, Democrats were favored for 2024.
Oh, I hope he runs. I hope he wins the nomination.
He's already running. He's already announced it. He's in.
Well, I hope he gets the nomination. I mean, that's
yeah. I think the minute Trump decided, because the Republican Party is going nuts already. I mean, they put Mitch McConnell in. They know Trump hates Mitch McConnell. You got Mike Pence all over the country criticizing Trump.
Do you think DeSantis could beat Trump in a primary?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Wait, you asked, it's a difference between could and would. Can he? Yes. Will he? I don't know.
All right. We'll talk later.
Good talk. All right. Judge Political, always a pleasure. All right. Comments real quick. Listen, I always make the promise I don't ban, block, or censor anyone, and I've been able to uphold that promise for damn near a year. However, Henry, the clown emojis, please stop. We get your point. You think that whoever's talking, whether it's yours truly or my guest, are clowns. Come in a box and say what you have to say. You got 300 plus people in here. I'll give you priority in at least 10 minutes to let everybody know why you believe a handsome liberal is a clown without any fear of being banned, blocked, or censored. But this clown stuff in the comments, please stop. It's unnecessary. We get your point. Okay. All right. Looking in the comments. DeSantis needs to get the nomination in 45, split the ticket as independent. Trexas, I say this on every single live stream. If I was to advise Ron DeSantis, clearly I'm a liberal, I would never have that opportunity. But if I ever had the opportunity to advise Ron DeSantis, I say this every time. I would tell him, you are a young, highly respected Republican politician. You got a gubernatorial run or you got a gubernatorial job in Florida probably for as long as you want it. Trump is on the sunset of his career. You are young enough that you could easily run in 2028, 2032, 2036. Steer clear of Trump. You don't want to end up like Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, Adam Kinzinger, Liz Cheney, Rudolph Giuliani, or a host of other politicians that were highly respected and now they're trash. You don't need to get involved in that. Do not get on a ticket with Trump. Do not get too close to this guy. There are people who love Trump. I get that. But Trump has shown he can lose elections. He just lost the midterms in 2022. He lost the presidency. He lost the House in 2020. And he also lost in the midterms in 2018. So Trump won in 2016, and everything since has been a successive string of losses. Do not get involved in that. You are at the peak of your success. You don't need to do that. Let Trump make his decision for 2024, and by 2028, you won't have to worry about him, and you can pop up then. You will, at that point, probably be even stronger as a gubernatorial candidate coming out of Florida. Don't mix yourself with Trump. Don't get on that ticket. Don't rush this shit. That's what I would tell DeSantis. But then again, I'm a liberal. Of course, he wouldn't listen. All right, looking in the comments. With all the Hunter Biden issues, does Joe get attacked by the Department of Justice? Would he go to jail? Jason, playing politics, being honest, calling a spade no matter who's dealing the cards, calling a strike no matter who's up to bat. You're not going to get any type of serious progress in regards to going after Joe Biden while he's president. No different than when Trump was president and in control of the Senate, those impeachment hearings were going nowhere. Folks often say Russian collusion, delusion, the cases against Trump were witch hunts, whatever you want to call them. If the Democrats were in charge of the Senate, a lot more would have came out of that stuff. It's a waste of time going after President Biden while he controls the Senate and the White House. You might hear a few things, but at the end of the day, there's not going to be any justice held, just like under President Trump. The Democrats can do exactly what the Trump administration did. Delay, plead the fifth, all of the stuff that Trump said, if you do this, you're a member of the mob. You got something to hide. You know, didn't have any problem doing it when he was in the crosshairs. Well, the liberals are going to do the same shit. So if you're hoping that somehow Hunter Biden's going to end up in cuffs or something, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And now that Trump has opened up the doors for a president being able to possibly pardon himself, not going to happen. You can use Trump's lyrics against him in a rap battle and win. Just do what he did. Plead the fifth, delay. At the end of the day, roll out and pardon your son and say it's over with. You might get some really good battles where you win the battle. Ooh, we heard this about Biden, or ooh, we found out that about Biden. But at the end of the day, you're not going to see either one of these guys ever being in an orange jumpsuit or cuffs or anything. It's just not going to happen. You just like with the Trump folks saying that it's a waste of taxpayer money, it's a waste of time. You think you're going to get any more than that going after Biden or Hunter Biden? You're going to get a whole lot of testimony with no outcome. And Biden is what, 80 plus? Biden will soon be 80 years old. You really think you're going to get something out of that? You couldn't even lock up Hillary Clinton with literally years of lock her up. Has she even been investigated for anything? You're not going to get the Bidens. But good luck. I mean, it'll make for good news. We can get on here and talk about the shit and all of that. But Biden will die an old, wealthy man. He will lie in state for a week and be celebrated. Just like Hillary Clinton will. It's not going to happen. No Republicans won't lower crime because they don't focus on what causes crime, says a spooky Mormon. A spooky Mormon. I can tell you a lot of directions that one goes to, scaring the hell out of some little kids. But in regards to Republicans not focusing on what causes crime, what do you believe causes crime? If you go to a city like Chicago, St. Louis, Memphis, what do you believe is causing crime in those cities that Republicans are failing to focus on? Just curious. Still need to go after them. Yeah, you can go after a MAV 21. If, like I said, it'll be a whole bunch of times when you turn on Fox News and they're celebrating the Durham report, or they're celebrating like they did when Fox didn't celebrate when 2000 Mules came out. But you celebrating this stuff. But at the end of the day, none's going to come out of it. It's not. I mean, I've seen how the right was celebrating every step of the election that proved this or showed that nothing comes out of that stuff. When you got the president in office in a liberal Senate, that's kind of it. That really is kind of it. That's enough to tell you none's going to come out of it. And you've seen how efficient the Republicans were at knocking down any investigations of Trump. So it's not going to go anywhere. But good luck. Have fun doing it. Poverty, lack of resources, and bad policies. That's what the Republicans should address that causes crime. Poverty, absolutely. Poverty can certainly lead to lack of resources. What are the bad policies, though? What are the bad policies in urban areas that Republicans could address to reduce crime? I don't know what the bad policies are. Go into the box. Wake up to reality. Good afternoon. Wake up. Tap the screen. 5,000 likes is within reach. This is a MAGA-friendly audience. Tap the screen for your boy. Make 25,000 happen. All these patriots and liberals alike in this program. Wake up to reality. What do you think about the Republicans lowering crime?
I always hear about that.
You haven't heard of it? You don't think the Republicans ran on the platform that liberals are soft on crime, indicating that if you put Republicans in Congress and Senate in gubernatorial positions, they can reduce crime. Do you believe that's possible?
They'll probably have a lot of people locked up.
Okay, would that reduce crime?
I mean, do they support Joe Biden, the whole crime bill? I mean, he was trying to, reduce the crime with the crime bill.
Do you believe the crime bill worked?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Did Republicans support that?
Yeah, of course they did.
Because you usually does say, Joe Biden is the racist who started the crime bill, who wrote the crime bill.
Okay. Yeah, I've said it before on the program numerous times that any white guy that is the age of Joe Biden or Donald Trump has racism in him, just like myself. I'm a child of the early 70s. You're not going to find any straight man that's a child of the early 70s, mid 70s that probably doesn't have some homophobia in it. We used to make jokes about that community. Most of us have evolved, such as myself. I'm a huge fan of the LGBT community now, but coming up during that time, that was just the norm. Coming up during Joe Biden's time, being racist was the norm. So does Joe Biden have a racist past? Absolutely. So does Trump. I mean, hopefully the evolution is what we're hoping for, though. But yeah, I certainly am in agreement that Joe Biden has racially suspect shit in his past.
Yeah. Like, are they going to implement some sort of like law and order? Like, how do Republicans reduce crime? I'm kind of curious.
That's the question I'm asking, because that's what they ran on. They ran on a platform that Democrats are soft on crime, and if you elect Republicans, they'll deal with crime better. That's what I'm asking. How can they be tougher on crime?
I mean, I think they run on things, but they don't execute the promise. It's false promise.
So what you're saying is promises made, promises not kept.
Yeah. Like in my state, we had. I live in Maine. We had former governor LePage. He said, he was addressing crime and the gun laws. He said he would get rid of all the gun-free zone, and he said that will help, reduce crime and also more police in every neighborhood.
In Maine? Do you guys have a lot of shootings in Maine?
We had recently, like, I think it was like twice, for our state. We had an increase for our state because we're like one of the peaceful states. So
yeah, there's nobody there.
Yeah, there are
Also,
people from other states coming in. That's why.
okay. Okay. Well, shit, the ones that are coming there ain't coming there to do a drive-by. Ain't about to go to Portland to rip somebody off. I mean, all 6 of y'all can't get along. Real quick in the comments, I have to ask a question. Proc, ask your question. But so gun-free zones, they're trying to implement that or get rid of that in Maine.
He wants to get rid of all gun-free zone, like all of them. And I was like,
Courtroom? He wants you to be able to bring a pistol in the courtroom?
that's what I was asking. I was like, what
Yeah.
about that? It's like, oh, maybe like no, like no courtrooms or anything. But besides school, campuses, mall, all of them. You can
I never could get why people think getting rid of gun-free zones is going to lower this stuff, because the police, there is no such thing as a police officer that is a gun-free zone. All police carry guns and they get shot at all the time. So why do people think that if you put guns in an environment, I mean, it gives you the ability to protect yourself. I agree with that, but it's not going to stop people from shooting at you. It just lets people know. Like I asked a question earlier in my life, would crime go down if you gave everybody a gun? And people were like, yeah. If a person knows you're armed, it just means they realize they got to shoot you first. No different than, like I said, attacking the police or going after a bank guard or going after an armored car guard. It doesn't stop those people from being victims of crimes. It just tells the criminal you got to shoot them first, and they still commit the crime.
I'm a gun owner myself, but I wouldn't want to exchange blow with with a criminal who has no empathy for security. If a security guard or police cannot take them down, what makes you think I will?
Yeah.
I'm running away.
Right. Well, and also too, I don't know. People think that when you give everyone guns, people will just automatically become good Samaritans. And I've asked this before, and I'll ask this again for folks who are listening. We got 600 plus people in here. What would you do if you were in Walmart? Let's say you're in Walmart. I'm gonna give you an example based on reality. In 2000, I believe 19, a guy went into a Walmart in El Paso and decided to start taking out Hispanics. Let's say you're in Walmart with your family. You're about to walk out. You've already checked your bags and everything. You're walking out, and you can clearly hear gunfire and screaming from the back of the store. You have a firearm. Yes or no? Would you go back in that store to try to help out those citizens that are being massacred when you clearly have an exit? Yes or no? Would you be a good Samaritan and go back in that store trying to hunt down the source of that gunfire? Or would you leave? You have an exit right out. What would you do? I'm going to look in the comments. What would you do there? Would you go back in the store and try to hunt that down?
The funny thing that happened to me before, but it was a crazy ex that was shot her ex-boyfriend at a Walmart, and I was in the parking lot, and I do carry, and I was on my vehicle. I was hiding on my vehicle and called 911 because I'm not a hero. I'm not a cop. If I go there and hunt, try to stop her or anything, the cops. I'm a black man. They would just see me as a suspect. So
okay.
I don't do that.
All right, fair enough. And I'm the same way. I'm not going to go get into an optional gunfight, but I got to move it on, man. Appreciate you coming through.
Yeah, I would like to hear what they have.
Fair enough. Good talk. I'll say that there are plenty of folks in the audience who said that, I'm trained. I have I carry a firearm. I would go back and look and see if I could save the people being slaughtered. Here's the problem. If 5 or 10 of you decide to go back throughout the store trying to hunt down where the gunshots are coming from, what are the chances that one good Samaritan might mistake the other good Samaritan and shoot him? Because you're trying to get the drop on wherever the shooting's coming from. You're looking and peeking around aisles trying to see if you can get the drop on that person. Every good Samaritan is doing the exact same thing. They're all peeking and trying to take cover and hiding. When you see a person crouch down with a pistol in their hand, You only have a split second to take that person out or have them see you and maybe do the same thing to you. Do you realize how chaotic that could be? You guys may end up firing at each other and the actual assailant may walk out. So understand that if we handed everybody firearms, now one person doing it, yeah, if the entire store ran out and one good person went back there, yeah, maybe they could save the day. But if you got an environment where everybody's carrying and everybody decides to do that, you're going to tell me you think it'll all go right? This is very similar to the argument of what happened in New York on the subway earlier this year. Had a racist African-American guy get on the subway and tried to kill a bunch of people. I think he shot 9 folks. No one died, but he tried to kill a bunch of people. And you had folks on the right suggesting that this would be safer if they could carry firearms, because in New York, you couldn't carry a firearm on the subway. Do you realize how crowded the subway trains are in a major urban area like New York? I'm talking about so crowded where people are standing and can barely move without saying, excuse me. If someone pulls out a firearm in that environment and folks pull out firearms to try to defend themselves, do you realize what you would have going on in that subway train? I don't know if it would be any better of an outcome. So I don't know if introducing defensive guns to every scenario is beneficial, but maybe I'm wrong. I live in an area where I'm not always around a hell of a lot of people. Yeah, if I pull out a firearm, I pretty much may have a good clear shot. But in urban areas where it is overly congested, I don't know. I don't know if that would work because there's too many people with the same right. Yeah. A shooting turns into Call of Duty. Yeah, it could be something like that. It could be something like that. Real quick in the comments, Jay-Z Dude says, our turn impeach Biden. Maybe. But I want to ask a question. Russian collusion, delusion, all of the witch hunts, politicizing the federal government. This is what a lot of folks on the right believe. Now that they're in power, at least from a congressional standpoint, they seem to be totally down with doing exactly what they complained about throughout the Trump administration. Not necessarily to get a corrupt person like you believe Joe Biden is corrupt. No, do it for revenge. It happened to Trump. We're going to do it to this guy now. Well, if you thought it was wrong when it happened to your guy, but yet you're willing to do it to the next guy, then you don't have the moral high ground. You're just pissed that you were being victimized by it. You're clearly capable of doing the same shit. You just are pissed that it was being used on you. That's not the moral high ground. DJ Magic Stick. Sounds like a hip. DJ, good afternoon.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
That was good to hear from you. I'm asking the question, can Republicans reduce crime in urban areas?
No, they can't.
That's it. You out of all of my callers, I haven't had one that believes they can, yet that's what they were running on. So why are they running on that?
Because the other side, the Democrats look weak on crime, but when you look at statistics, any red state has high crime, has higher crimes than any blue state. And then if you look at the inner cities of these red states, the inner city of, like, let's say Georgia or South Carolina, the inner city has less crime than the rural area if you look at statistics. So if you think if Republicans would take care of crime, that would be all the opposite. It'd be blue states would be higher crime and red states not, if they knew how to do their job. Oh yeah, and I had to make one other point. The other guy said they're going to try and impeach Biden. They can't do it. You need 2/3. You need 2/3 of the vote to impeach him. They don't have the numbers, so they'll never.
2/3 of the vote in Congress.
And in the House, you need 2/3 of the vote.
And they have a very slim majority. So that's true.
They don't have the 2/3 vote. They would need like at least 20 Democrats to do that. And so what the Republican Party got voted in the House to fix inflation and gas prices. If they don't do that first thing, they will not have the House in 2024. They will not.
Well, a minute. What about gridlock? I mean, Republicans Republicans in control of Congress, but not the presidency and not the Senate. They're not going to be able to reduce inflation by themselves. There's no way they could do that.
No, but if they don't project out to the people that they're gonna try to do that, then the people will say you're not doing what we put you in there for. They have to show that they're gonna try to fix it. They don't show that they're trying to fix the stuff they were sent to do, even though it won't work. They have to at least show. If they don't do that, the people that vote for them say, "Hey, you didn't even go up there and try to pass anything that help us. You went up there just to investigate Biden. We didn't send you to go up there and do that. We wanted you to fight to get the inflation down and gas prices and everything down. And you didn't even try that. So we're not going to vote for you the next time." So the Republican Party is going to burn themselves again. Like they burned themselves on Roe versus Wade. They're going to burn themselves on doing this. And they should have won big. Republicans should have won like 40 houses. If you look at history, anytime a president's in office, their party loses like 40 seats in the House.
So why do you think that did not happen this time?
Because there was, people ain't gonna say it, but there was a blue wave that came in. It's supposed to be a big red wave win.
But that's what I'm asking you. I'm asking you is what fueled the blue wave that goes against history? What made this time end up with a blue wave when all the other times it's red?
People don't really trust the Republican Party on anything right now. After what Trump put the country through, the people don't trust the Republican Party because they got too many lunatics in there. Even though they got too many lunatics in there, and people are afraid of them. They're afraid.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples of Republican lunatics.
Marjorie Taylor, the common people go out there saying nonsense and stuff, Yeah. And we got some on the left. But they're not outrageous as more than the other side. That's the difference. And I think the American people wants to see how the next 2 years go. In 2024, that's when the big deciding is going to happen.
So let me ask you this. This is coming from Latina for Trump in the comments. Latina for Trump 24. She's saying that Trump didn't put the people through anything. The caller, meaning you, is delusional. How do you respond to folks who suggest that Trump didn't put folks through anything? Trump gave you a good economy, projected us on the world stage, managed the border and all of that.
I'll give you a short rundown. What happened is Trump was handed a good economy, a good country, everything. This country had a pandemic team when it was handed to him. Okay? The country was handed to him with a pandemic team. Everything was running good. Trump comes in, fires the pandemic team on 2018 on live TV. He fired the pandemic team, sent the doctors home and everything. Knowing that the professionals told him, do not do that. We've been battling pandemics for over a decade, Ebola and all that. Do not do that. You're going to, So when he fired the pandemic team on live TV, the rest of the world, China and all of them knew that we're not protected. That's like getting rid of your military while you're at war. So he fired them. If he would have never fired them, we would have never had to get vaccinated. We would have never had to get shots and wear masks because the pandemic team would have been able to do their job like they did with Ebola, H1N1. They would have went in, contained the problem, put a plastic bubble wrap around the house, contain it, and it would have been done just like all the other ones. But they didn't do that. Trump fired them, and then he cut their budget down to almost nothing. That's the beginning of he almost destroyed the whole world. Trump did by doing that. No, he did by doing that.
That's a bit strong. Wait a minute.
No, it's not. No, it's not. These teams were put together around the world. These teams, the pandemic teams, are doctors that were staged around the world.
You can't put all that on Trump. You said he almost destroyed the world?
Yeah, because did the pandemic almost destroy the whole world? Did it or did it not?
Yeah, but it's not our job to save the entire planet.
No, we were the leaders. We're the one that had the doctors and everything. We did.
I
We
don't
had
know.
doctors.
I think you're giving Trump a bit more than he deserves. I mean, look, if your country does not have doctors to deal with a pandemic, that's your country's fault. That's
No,
not Trump's
the
responsibility to
pandemic team.
help your
The
huh?
pandemic team was the pandemic team was designed with doctors around the world to gather. They were gathered. This team was gathered by doctors around the world. We were like the main funding of it, but there's other countries involved, and we had these
I
teams.
can't listen. I'm
Yeah.
not one who favors the way Trump handled the pandemic. I don't think he did a good job on the pandemic, but I'm not going to say the man destroyed the whole world or came close to destroying the whole world. I believe if the countries that did not have their own pandemic team, their own decent doctors, that is the fault of those countries because a pandemic can happen. It's not like there hasn't been other pandemics throughout history. So if those countries
No,
are not medically prepared, that is the fault of those countries.
this pandemic team was not just USA. It was a gathering of other countries together that we
Yeah.
created this team. Obama created this. It wasn't just a USA pandemic team. It was it was designed for the whole world. Obama put this together. We had teams from France, Germany, all these countries had their own teams, but we was the forefront of it, okay? We was the
Okay.
forefront of it. When he got rid of it, all that pandemic team went away. We have even Chinese people that were in the pandemic team in China because they were signed on to it. We had other countries signed on to this pandemic team. It wasn't
All
just
right.
the USA.
Okay, you heard it obviously different than I did, but I do got to move it on, man. I appreciate you coming through. You're always welcome back.
All right,
All right,
thanks, man.
looking in the. I will say this, and like I said when we were talking to each other, I'm willing to point out areas I believe Trump handled the pandemic in measures that were flawed. The reason I believe Trump was flawed on handling the pandemic is simple. You should release a uniform statement. In other words, sit down with the CDC, the FDA, Dr. Fauci, if you want to talk to him or get rid of him and put somebody else on the task force or whatever the case may be. You sit at a round table with all of them. Let them hash out what we should do with the pandemic, and you release one unified statement with all of them standing behind you. You can read it, you can have it on a teleprompter or whatever, but you have the expert from the CDC, the FDA, the WHO, the WHO, all of them are behind you while you read this statement that has collectively been released from all of you while sitting there negotiating together. That way it looks unified. Whereas when Trump did it, Trump is releasing one statement. Dr. Fauci's on CNN saying something else. The CDC is over here on Fox saying, and it looks like a mess. Whereas Trump could have made sure, being in charge of the federal government, what we say here is the statement that's going to be released, and I don't want to see any of you guys on any network saying other shit. This is what you read. If I see you reading something else, you're no longer in charge of this department. I'm going to reallocate you somewhere else. If you can't fire Dr. Fauci, then you move him back to the HIV task force or something. Trump did it in the most unorganized manner you could do. He would stand on television with Dr. Fauci for an hour or two every damn night as if they were unified. Then he would go to his rallies and let folks yell, fire Dr. Fauci. And Dr. Fauci would go on CNN and speak ill of Trump. That looked like a mess. And that's what we have to this day in regards to folks who supported Trump. Some are okay with the vaccine, some are not. What Trump was looking to do was run for office in 2020. Having one of the best economies in recent history, Trump was looking at the economy as his baby to get reelected. So when the health organization started suggesting that we shut down the economy, oh no, we can't. Not do and deal with the pandemic simultaneously, where you got the entire medical community saying you need to shut things down and make us safe, and the entire business community pushing for him to keep things open. And he actually tried to do both of those things, which are impossible, simultaneously, leading to a whole disarray mess. which still exists to this day. So I don't believe Trump handled the pandemic properly, but I'm not going to blame the guy for screwing up the whole world like my other caller was just saying. To me, that almost sounds like some of my Q folks just coming from a left-winger. I'm not going to blame Trump for destroying the world. Even if the Americans are leading when it comes to health issues and pandemic issues in this country, you as a leader of any other country, a prime minister, president, king, or whatever the hell you are, you should have something in place just in case the American government goes rogue. I mean, that can happen. It happens everywhere. Just like we lend out aircraft and things like that to our allies. But we still keep secrets from them just in case somebody in that country goes rogue. I mean, we would expect to be able to depend on Australia or the UK if something happened. But rogue people can happen anywhere. So I don't believe that Trump did a great job. In fact, I think he did a bad job on the pandemic. But I'm not going to say the man destroyed the world. Anyhow, folks, I am on a lunch break live. I appreciate the fact that you guys are rolling with your boy. You could be anywhere you want to be on TikTok. And the fact that you're here with me, 27,000 likes. Would have been nice if I had got 30. Plenty of patriots and liberals alike in here. I always make the solemn promise I do not ban, block, or censor anyone for their comments. And when you come in the box, I live up to that promise on every single caller. However, I am on lunch, and I got to go back to work. See you guys tonight at 7 p.m. Central. It is your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Until then, follow the program. Help me out with the algorithms and all of that good shit. And I will catch you on the next broadcast.